Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. So today, we've got something incredibly special lined up, and honestly highly focused. We're going to take just a single, densely packed paragraph describing a cinematic Roman battle shot, and we're going to completely deconstruct it. I mean, we are literally talking about one short paragraph of text here, but, within those few words is an absolute masterclass in how camera movement, staging, and atmosphere all combine to create a totally visceral, unforgettable narrative. Because great cinematography, it's not just about what you point the camera at, it's about how the camera behaves with its subject. So today we're unpacking exactly how a director builds immense tension and scale, using nothing but raw descriptive text as our blueprint.
All right, let's set this stage right out at the gate. Close your eyes for a second and just picture this sequence as I read the exact text we're working with. Ready? Continuous shot pulling back to reveal Roman lines struggling, soldiers falling, enemy pushing forward, fire starting in the distance, sky darkening with smoke, camera rising slowly showing scale of destruction, epic war atmosphere. Wow. Just absorb the sheer weight of that imagery for a second. In literally one breath, we're taken from this incredibly micro level of hand-to-hand combat all the way to a macro level of just absolute ruin.
Okay, let's dive into this. Deconstructing the turning point. Now, that description wasn't just a random list of chaotic events, right? It's a meticulously choreographed sequence designed to completely manipulate our emotions. To truly get it, we're going to mirror the exact pacing of this continuous shot in our analysis. Let's see how this deliberate sequence of words creates such a heavy, immersive impact on us as the audience.
So it all kicks off with this core mechanical constraint, the continuous shot pulling back. Basically, that's a single, uninterrupted camera movement that physically retreats from the action, continuously expanding your field of vision. And why is this absolutely crucial? Well, because in a continuous shot, there are no cuts. None. There are no edits to save us from the brutality or to artificially speed things up. The director is basically forcing us to stay grounded right there in the agonizing present. We're physically bound to the lens, dragging backward as this brutal reality unfolds right in front of our eyes. There's no escape.
And of course, to pull back, we've got to start somewhere tight, right? We start with the frontline chaos. We're thrown intimately into the micro perspective of the infantry, who, let's be honest, are having a pretty terrible day. We're right there in the grit, the dirt, the noise. Notice the text doesn't start with some grand, majestic view of the battlefield like a chessboard. Nope. We start in the messy, desperate middle of a human struggle, where every single inch of ground is violently contested.
And right away, notice the intense cause and effect happening in real time here. Roman lines struggling versus the enemy pushing forward. You can literally feel the rapid, tense energy in those words. It's highly kinetic. We're not looking at a static standoff here. For every single foot the Romans lose, the enemy violently and immediately takes it. The actual structure of the sentence mimics the physical clash of these two massive forces. One defensive line breaking, while the offensive line just surges with momentum.
And smack in the middle of that surging momentum, soldiers falling. Let's just pause on that phrase for a second. Amidst this massive tactical shift, the text intentionally grounds us in the grim human cost. These aren't just invisible lines on a map shifting backward. These are individual lives ending in real time. Because of the continuous shot, we have to watch the very real physical collapse of the Roman defenders before the camera even thinks about continuing its relentless journey backward. We literally aren't allowed to look away from the casualties.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because as the camera keeps pulling back, we enter the expanding environment. The focus widens significantly here. We're not just looking at soldiers swinging swords anymore. We're looking at the world they're fighting in and how that world is reacting to all this carnage.
We get fire starting in the distance and the sky darkening with smoke. Notice how the whole mood just shifts here. We're stepping away from the frantic melee combat and moving into this looming, oppressive sense of doom. The environment itself is becoming openly hostile to the survivors. That darkening sky is physically choking out the light, visually signaling what the falling soldiers signaled physically. The whole situation is collapsing. Hope is basically being snuffed out.
Now, understanding the spatial progression of the camera here is super important. We have two very distinct steps. Step 1, that continuous shot pulling back rapidly through the retreating lines. But right at the climax of despair, we hit Step 2, the camera rising slowly. The frantic horizontal retreat gives way to a vertical ascension. The director is consciously pulling us up out of the mud, the blood and the smoke, elevating us to prep for the ultimate visual climax.
And as we rise, we hit the macro view, the scale of destruction. The pacing slows way down. It becomes deliberate, almost heavy. We're no longer focused on a single swinging sword or a single falling soldier. The battlefield just stretches out before us, vast,
burning, tragic. By slowing the physical movement down to a slow rise, the director is forcing us to just sit in that silence and absorb the absolute totality of the ruin taking place below.
Which brilliantly brings us to the final goal of the text, creating an epic war atmosphere. We throw the word epic around a lot, but honestly, this text completely earns it. And it doesn't achieve it just by throwing 10,000 digital extras on a screen at once. It achieves it through this masterful synthesis. It starts intimately with the human struggle. It layers in the suffocating environmental effects of the smoke and distant fire, and then it binds the whole shebang together with that dynamic, unrelenting camera movement pulling us backward and upward. It's a complete, devastating emotional arc in one unbroken take.
So, that leaves us with one final, lingering question to close out this explainer. The source document itself is titled Turning Point, but as we hover high above this staggering scale of destruction, we really have to ask ourselves, does the rising camera reveal the turning point, where maybe Roman reinforcements suddenly crest a distant hill to save the day? Or does it simply reveal the end, the definitive moment of their ultimate defeat? The incredible beauty of this short description is that it leaves us suspended right on that terrifying edge of uncertainty. I really hope this explainer showed you just how much narrative power and cinematic brilliance can be packed into a single, well-crafted paragraph. Thanks so much for diving into this scene with me. Keep analyzing, and I'll catch you on the next one.